This is a continuation of the previous webinar which we discussed the internal control theoretical aspect. So today I am going to discuss the practical application, advanced application of internal controls what you learnt in your previous webinar as well as in your subject of BL5 or KE4 under the previous syllabus. So remember that in your CL1 paper mostly the practical application would be tested rather theory. So therefore you need to focus on this video properly. But I request you, so no use or no point in watching this video if you have not watched the previous webinar, previous video in relation to the internal control. So if you have not watched, please go back to the previous webinar, internal control, governance and internal control framework, watch that theoretical aspect and come to this video. So basically in this video I am going to discuss the advanced application on a two aspect. One is application of internal controls in manual application of internal control in manual processes, as well as I am going to discuss one of the important area, that is advanced application of internal controls with regard to information technology. So which is again it was a very famous or a very common question in KB4 as well as KC4. So in the pilot paper there is no question from the information technology control, but there could be a question and also if there is a question, if you have not learned correctly, the question would become difficult because that is related to the information technology, right? So before coming to the today's discussion, first we will look at the pilot paper, how the questions are coming. So if you look at the pilot paper, section 3 in the pilot paper, section 3, question number 2, this I show at the previous webinar as well. Question number 2 is a long case study with regard to the audit application, especially the audit procedures. So in the question number 2, I am not going to read this full question, I will be discussing this question at the end of the webinar. If you look at the part E of the question for 6 marks, as part of communicating internal control deficiencies to those charged with governance, draft 3 significant deficiencies along with recommendation to overcome such deficiencies. As part of communicating internal control deficiencies to those charged with governance, draft 3 significant deficiencies along with recommendation to overcome such deficiencies for 6 marks. So in remember that this practical application of internal control not that difficult like audit planning, fraud risk identification, maybe other assurance engagement, digital auditing. So like those chapters, this is not difficult, but here the challenge is, now you see here the 6 marks, you have to get 6 marks, but very simple answers, where what is the most important factor here, you need to practice how the answer should be presented to the examiner. Right, how to get 6 marks. So sometimes most of the student I can see in your KB4 and KC4 papers, so most of the students were when there is a situation 6 marks are given, most of the cases students are able to get only 3 marks or 2.5 marks. The reason is, so the lack of practicing of writing. Even if it is a small question, even if it is a simple question, so you are required to write. You are required to write the answer in the paper. Don't look at the suggested solution. Don't look at the answers given by other institution or anything. Write yourself and check the answer. You may feel, why should I write, because I know the answer. You write and see whether you can organize the answer in a way that the examiner is expected. So therefore, this is again a area where your writing skills will be tested by the examiner. So this is not a IT control, this is manual control part, but we should aware about the practical application, right? So this type of questions only will come at your examination, and I will show you another question. This is KB4. If you look at the December 2016, question number 6, KB4, December 2016, question number 6. If you look at this question, question number 6 is a long case study. I am not going to read the full question, but in this long case study, there is a there are two questions. The first question, identify two IT general controls and two application control from the above scenario for 6 marks. You just see, just to identify, the action verb is identify, just to identify general control, you are given a 3 marks, general control 3 marks. So that means 1 point you are getting 1.5 marks, right. So this is again not difficult, but you need to have a theoretical understanding what is general control and what is application control. So we will try to discuss today as far as possible. And when it comes to in a past paper analysis of KB4, if you look at this past paper analysis of KB4, which I show you in the previous webinar. So I told you in this internal control chapter contains a 2 part. One is the introduction to internal control theoretical aspects, same thing in the CL1 syllabus as well, and the internal control over specific business areas, that is practical side of internal control. You can see the theoretical side also there were some question, but the practical side it is a continuously there is a application question. So you see there are 5 areas there we have to discuss: order to receipt cycle, procurement to pay cycle, payroll cycle, cash management, inventory control and property plant and equipment. You can see there is a one common question, common area where the examiner has been testing procurement to pay cycle. You see continuously it has been in your paper, in your KB4 paper, and also remember that the CL1 is much more advanced than the KB4. KB4 is only the benchmark for your CL1 paper because both the papers are closed book examination, right. So and also if you look at the under theoretical chapter, the part 4, internal controls in a computerized environment, you see again it has been in your KB4 paper, the examiner is, you see, December 16 10 marks, June 18 4 marks, again December 19 10 marks. So therefore there is a possibility of testing internal controls in relation to the information technology in your October 2020 examination as well, right. Okay. So now remember the internal control chapter is not difficult. What you need is, now some people, some students, they hate this subject. They have been doing for so many years this paper, KC4 or maybe KB4, but you are not in a position to get through because something wrong somewhere. Unless you find out what is the wrong thing, you cannot get through this time as well, right. So therefore you need, I am advising you, the students who have been failing continuously this subject, please take a paper and identify your weakness and take some action to address your weakness, rather criticizing the paper, rather criticizing the institute, or rather criticize yourself, right. So I could see several factors why you are continuously getting failed this subject, because this subject is a so practical subject. It is not something which is a theory based paper. This is something which is we practice in the auditing. In audit firm, there are so many audit firms in Sri Lanka. We day to day practice the auditing. What we practice only come in your paper, right. So it is not really necessary for a CL1 student to go to audit firm to write this paper. It is not really necessary. But what you need is, you need to think in a little bit in a more practical way. So you have to think in each and every question given at the, maybe in your pilot paper, maybe on the revision kit, maybe on the past papers. When the question is done, take 10 minutes, forget everything, close your eyes and think about the question. Think about the question. What is the question? What is the answer? Why I didn't feel that? Why I didn't think that answer? So what is problem in my answer? Take 10 minutes time and think on that. So you won't do that mistake in the second time, right. So that way you need to practice if you want to really get through this subject, right. But in my reading, this subject is not difficult, especially areas like internal control. You should be able to get entire 10 marks. This is not difficult, something like audit planning or a fraud risk identification, the assurance reporting, or maybe digital auditing. So not difficult like that. Okay, right. So application of internal control, basically we will be discussing today two sides. One is manual controls, application of manual controls. Manual controls and application of IT controls, right, application of IT controls, right. So if you look at the application of manual controls, is not difficult. So you have been learning from A level, preparation of bank reconciliation, raising GR and raising GDN, preparing the purchase order and authorizing and sending to the customers or supplier. So all these controls you have been learning from your A level on a different subject, maybe accounting or maybe management accounting, or maybe different subject we have been learning. But what you need to do now is, so you need to summarize all the control that you learn on a different subject into a one diagram, and not to memorize, just to keep those critical controls in your mind and write all the revision kit question, ACCA question where possible, pilot paper question and the past papers, right. So don't waste too much of your timing into the go through again and again the study text. Just go through the one round the study text in terms of this chapter, right. Go through one round, prepare your own short note. I will give you the format how to prepare the short note, and write questions, right. Okay. So first we will look at the application of manual controls, then we will come to the application of IT controls. So application of manual controls not difficult. So application of manual controls not difficult, that so you already aware. I am just trying to summarize this. If we take a business organization, there will be different divisions inside the organization. There will be the factory will be there, right, and the store will be there, and there will be a purchasing department or procurement department, right, and there will be a front office, sales department or a marketing department, we call front office, and there will be a human resource management department of within the organization. There will be IT and also on, but I am not going to talk about the other internal control. I am going to talk about the internal control which are relevant to the financial reporting. And next, important division. That important division is finance department, right. So likewise there will be several departments within the business organization. In order to ensure the smooth function of this particular department, the proper internal control should have been implemented within the organization in order to achieve three objectives. Can you remember in the previous webinar we discussed? Number one, enhancing the efficiency of the business operation, enhancing the reliability of financial reporting and compliance with the laws and regulation. In order to achieve these three objectives, the management and those charged with governance have developed a mechanism. That mechanism is called internal control. That is theory, but in practically there will be a organization like this, there will be in other divisions as well. In order to function of the interdepartment and end of the day to achieve the result of the revenue or end of the day, to achieve the financial performance of the organization, you need to have the adequate internal controls in place. So therefore, so in this particular, all the organizational activities, we can divide into the different processes. The processes are important of the business organization to in terms of delivering the outcome, right? So basically, if you look at here, I will just tell you few internal controls of within the organization. So these internal controls you are already aware, right? Now shall we say the factory. Now factory needs item from the store to run the factory related activities. When the materials are required for the store, materials are required for the factory from the store, you can't just give a call to the factory, store, please send me. Now for example, we will take a Munchie. So they are in the manufacturing of the biscuit. When the biscuits are manufactured or biscuits are prepared, so you need sugar. When the sugar is over, the factory will give a call to store and send me the sugar. That is one way of doing, but that is not a good at internal control. So you need to, the factory need to have a adequate documentation in terms of what they have requested, what they are receiving. Otherwise, later there will be a problem of in terms of financial reporting and the business operation efficiency. Therefore, the factory is raising a document called material request not. Factory is raising a document called material request not. We have learned this one from A level, from the store when they are requesting the goods, right? That is internal control. So don't think about the internal control as something which is landed which we don't know, or don't think like that. This is what you have learnt in from your A level, those are internal control. So I am not going to waste time too much. So MRN, requesting a MRN, it's internal control. So when it comes to the storekeeper checks the bin cart, maintenance of a bin cart also internal control. So in the bin cart, earlier is a manual bin cart, now the system bin cart. When you look at the bin cart, that stock is not available, or a stock is at the buffer stock, minimum stock level. So immediately what the storekeeper will do, will send a purchase requisition to the purchasing department or a procurement department. Please purchase this item which I need for this much of quantity. So based on the production budgets and all, store will decide what is the quantity they need. So once this is, but when you are sending this document, so this document must be prepared by someone and should be authorized by the head of the division. Can you remember we learned the previous webinar, the segregation of duties. So it is really required for a bigger company to have the function to be segregated for 2-3 people to avoid the frauds and errors within the business organization. So the MRN is received and the PR is raised, purchase requisition is raised by the store to the purchasing department. When it comes to purchasing or a procurement department comes, the procurement department executive or maybe procurement department head, so we will look at the production budget, the financial budget given by the finance department and see whether actually this is a required item or whether we need to purchase or not. So most probably when the purchasing department decide this item to be purchased, so the finance manager's approval should come, right? Before the purchase order is prepared, basically this much of quantity we need to purchase. So in that case, the budget should be approved by the finance department. So in the purchasing department, now shall we say, they want to, now we will say the Munchie they need sugar. So what they can do is, now they need a sugar, but now shall we say in Kottava, so near highway that Munchie company, so they need a sugar. What they can do? So go to the boutique center in the nearby and take a 50 kilogram of sugar and take into the business. Is that correct? It is correct if it is a small bakery. If it is a bigger company, you need to ensure the efficiency of the business operation. So therefore you need to have really proper mechanism in terms of procurement. That is called internal controls in procurement, right? So what will happen? So purchasing department will perform a supply selection. Supply selection will be done properly. It may be either calling 3 quotation or it may be, if it is a bigger one, it may be a tender, right, or it may be a registered suppliers. What is the registered supplier? The registered suppliers mean at the beginning of the year, if it is a recurring transaction, if it is a recurring purchase, at the beginning of the year, we call quotation for the entire next 1 year. So, we call quotation and we identify the supplier, we evaluate the supplier whether they can provide throughout the period. So, what we select one customer or one supplier at the beginning of the year and we give the orders throughout the period on the prices agreed in advance, right. So, registered suppliers. So, that can be done for regular purchases. So, supplier selection will be made either quotation, either tender if it is a government based organization, or if the value involvement is so high, if it is a non-recurring transaction, yes, tender is idle, and registered supplier. So, either one of the method will be selected by the procurement head and we will go ahead with that, right. But after supplier is selected, what's going to happen here? After supplier is selected, we will say the X Limited is the supplier. So, in that case, the purchasing department is required to send a PO, purchase order. So, purchasing department is required to send the purchase order to the X Limited supplier. So, then what will happen is, so if the X Limited accept that, so then accordingly the demand will be fulfilled. So, what will happen here? So, then the X Limited will be sending the goods to our company, right. When the goods are being delivered, so basically when the goods are sent with the something called delivery note, DN. When the goods are sent by the supplier, so normally we use a document called delivery note, remember that. So, these are only a example of the wording. So, there could be a different wording used by different multinational organization. It is not really necessary to use this word MRN. It is a standard word, but you can use a different word if you wished. There is no problem, but we need to look at what? We need to look at the purpose of the document. Purpose of the document. In your examination also, the examiner will give you a different name. So, good example, in one of my audit some time back I saw, so one of the Indian based companies, so they use one document called Chalan. So, I was surprising, Chalan. So, it is a different name used by that Indian company, but that name is being used instead of a GRN. So, therefore, do not worry about your examination, what is the name given in your examination of a particular document, but you need to look at what is the purpose of the document, right. So, if you look at if it comes with the delivery note, sometime it with the invoice also, sometime may not be with the invoice, but delivery note is a important aspect, right. So, but when the lorry comes to the company premises, the lorry cannot come into the business as they wished. At this particular moment, there is a security in order to goods to be get in. So, there should be a gate pass. If the gate pass is not there, goods cannot come in. So, then what will happen is, okay, then goods will arrive at the store, not the purchasing department, goods will arrive at the store. This is the most critical moment in our procurement cycle. So, in this moment, only the main source document in relation to the purchases is raised. That is, in this moment, the GRN must be raised. GRN, good received note, must be raised. So, good received note must be raised by the store department or a storekeeper looking at the quantity and the condition of the physical goods that are received at that moment to the store. So, that need to be properly raised while looking into DN, delivery note as well as PO. It is the responsibility of the storekeeper to raise the GRN by looking at the physical quantity and the condition of the good as well as the delivery note what is sent by the X Limited as well as the purchase order what we have sent, because we need to ensure we receive the good what we requested, right. So, this is again is an important area. So, what will happen here, when the GRN is raised, so the GRN original will be given to finance department, right. Different applications are done by different companies. Sometimes original will be kept on store and the copy will be given to finance department, but the finance people prefer to have original document, not the photocopies or copies, because when you are processing a payment, the directors or the people who are signing the payment want to see the original document, right. So, what will happen here? So, then the GRN will come to the finance department, and with the X Limited, invoice also will come. Invoice also will come. Either invoice will come with the supplying the goods, or invoice can come on a different channel. It is not really necessary to the invoice to come when the goods are received. So, what will happen? Now, finance department got when the purchase order also, when they are sending, copy of the purchase order should be given to the finance department. What happened now? The finance department has received all these original document. GRN has come, right? Copy of purchase order has come, and delivery note has come. You see, GRN has come, PO has come, delivery note has come, right? Delivery notes, invoice. Delivery note also important, but invoice is the most important one, original invoice. So, what will happen here? Now, when all these three documents are received, so that indicates that you have a liability, because you have raised the GRN and you have accounted the purchase. Now, we have a liability. You have to make the payment according to the credit period. So, what happens here? So, when these documents are ready, the account executive of the particular company will raise the source document called payment voucher. So, these are right. So, when the payment voucher is raised by the particular account executive, and the original documentation either in a manual documents will be attached to the payment voucher, and will put it to the next level approval, maybe the accountant. Sometimes some companies, they do not use the hard copies at all. So, the account executive has to scan all these documents and attach in the system itself. So, what will happen here? So, then the system will generate the payment voucher, maybe ERP system, and that will go to the next level approval in the system itself. In your auditing, don't bother about the technology. Don't bother, I don't know the ERP system, I don't know the which advanced application, Oracle application, I don't know. Believe me, don't worry for any technological application in your auditing paper, because auditing fundamentals is same. The way it is done, it may be manual, it may be technology, as we don't bother about that, as far as our fundamentals are same, right. So, therefore, GRN, payment purchase order and the invoice, the payment voucher will be raised, and it will go for a next level approval. Those all are internal control. Will go for maybe for a accountant or a finance manager approval based on the predetermined limits. Maybe if it is above 1 million, it will go for the director, something like that. So, accordingly, the payment will be processed. So, what I told you now, basic internal controls in terms of the procurement and the payment cycle. If you really look at the other side, the same way, if you look at the other side of the internal control, so there will be a customer, right? Customer will come and request the goods, or customer will send the purchase order for us, and the sales department has a responsibility to ensure that in this moment, this particular customer, if it is a cash sale, no problem, but most of the sales are made on credit terms. Credit worthiness of that particular customer need to be ascertained in this moment. So, once the credit worthiness is ascertained, if it is acceptable with regard to the relevant approval of the higher management, so in that moment, the sales department or a marketing department will inform or will raise the invoice, right. Once this department raise the invoice, right, so the demand or request will come to the store. If it is to be released from the store, it will come to the store, but I am just telling you a general framework, right. So, there can be a changes within this framework, wherever the organization you are working, or maybe country to country, it can be different, but I am just telling you, I am just showing you all these what we see in this practice, all these are internal control, right. So, sometime one of the important document will be raised here, that is called good dispatch note. good dispatch note, either this can be raised in the store, it can be raised in the marketing department, doesn't matter, but the good dispatch note may be a different name could be called, but the good dispatch note should be raised. So what happens here, then the good dispatch note will be raised and goods will be going to the customer. When the goods are going to the customer, the similar things will happen. What will happen is, it will go with the delivery note, other side of this process. So same way the gate pass should be raised here when you are putting out from your company premises certain items. So you need to approve you need to get the gate pass, otherwise the security will not allow you to go out from the company premises or take out the goods from the company premises. So and then all the things will go to the customer and the customer will receive the invoice. So based on the invoice, the customer, what will happen is, customer will make the payment for us, right, to the finance department. We will get the payment. When the payment is received, ideally you need to raise the receipt, right. Those are like a very simple internal control application. So, and also in addition to that, you see there is a human resource management department. So they are also functioning in terms of the payroll processing, and maybe store, factory, purchasing, finance, IT, there are so many other departments where the business organization, they also work, but there are internal control for them as well. But what is our process, what is our focus in the CL1, or what is our focus as auditors? We need to understand what are the internal controls prevailing in the business organization, which will be useful in auditing financial statement. We don't focus about all the internal control of the organization, we focus on internal controls which are relevant to financial reporting, right. So when you are understanding the internal controls in relation to the financial reporting, I just gave you a background or a just basic introduction what type of controls will be there in the business organization. So if you look at the broader concept of the internal control of organization, we can see all these activities can be divided into 6 processes. So 6 processes mean 6 different application of the business organization which will be useful in financial reporting, right. 6 application which will be useful in financial reporting. In terms of the auditor need to have a proper understanding of the 6 processes that I am going to give you now, right. Basically the number 1 process I will write here, it will be easy. Right, I will write here the number 1 process. So you need to have the sales process. You need to know about the internal controls which are relevant to the sales. The number 2, purchase, or we call procurement. Technical word for a purchase is procurement. And number 3, so now again an important one, we will say cash and bank. So this has receipts and payments, right. Then you need to have internal controls with regard to property, plant and equipment, internal controls with regard to payroll, internal controls with regard to inventory, right. If you look at the organizations, there will be lot of process, maybe IT process, operational process, so there are a lot of processes. But as far as the auditor is concerned, auditor is much keen about these 6 processes when you are conducting the audit of financial statement. So auditor is going to use the knowledge of these internal controls in relation to these 6 areas in identifying the problematic areas, that mean risk assessment, as well as when you are conducting the audit procedures on to decide correct audit approach, the understanding of these 6 processes will be useful. So therefore, as a CL1 student, you need to have a proper understanding about the internal controls in relation to sales, purchase, cash and bank, PP, payroll and inventory. right? So if you are going for audit firm, or if you have gone for audit firm previously, you will have understanding of this. But if you have not gone, or if you are not willing to go, don't bother about that. This is not something new, which is something you have been learning from A level. I will tell you how to put a short note in this particular chapter. Then that short note is more than enough. Do all the past papers. Definitely you will get. Definitely you can get minimum 8 marks out of the 10 mark question, right? So basically, if you look at the sales process only I just told you. Customer is sending a PO, sales department evaluating the credit worthiness, and then it comes to the store is raising a GDN, then the goods are delivered. At the time of delivering, the gate pass should be raised, and it goes to the customer. Then the follow-up action will be taken to collect the money, then the money will come. At that time, finance department will raise the receipt. And also the finance department, if it is a credit customer, they will send the credit statement to the supplier, or customer statement to the customer. These are the internal controls in relation to the sales. So these are basic understandings, or a basic internal controls that I told you. So in your CL1 study text, in detail internal controls have been given. I will tell you how to do that one, right? If you look at the purchase procurement store, this is what I told you. The procurement purchase, the PO must be raised, that PO should be approved by someone, right? Someone means head of the division, and the budget should be approved by the finance department. Supply selection should be made of quotation, tender, or registered supplier. The supply evaluation must be made by a technical committee evaluation, should be done by a technical committee, and then the best supplier should be selected based on the predetermined benchmark. It should not only be the price, it may be the lead time, it may be the quality. So there are several other factors need to be looked into. So what happens here? Then the goods will be received. At the time of the goods are received, the GRN must be raised. At GRN original should go to the finance department. Then the finance department will process with the payment. When the payment is processed, I couldn't tell you that. When the payment is processed, remember that there is one thing called three-way control. This is called three-way control. Remember that. Before any payment is proceeded, in terms of the purchases, the person who is processing the payment need to look at 3 documents, need to cross-check these 3 documents to see whether what we have requested only we have received, what we requested only they have billed to us. In order to ensure those questions, the three-way control is three-way matching is important. What happens there? GRN, purchase order and invoice, all 3 documents will be cross-checked into the quantity, rate and everything, and will ensure all 3 documents are tally before making the process, right? So in terms of the purchase and the cash and bank, you know the payments is payment. When you are making the payment, of course, when you are making the payment, the relevant authority level, relevant approval level should be applied. Maybe if it is a less than 5,000 payment for account executive can be made through the petty cash, or maybe if it is a 1 million payment, the finance controller plus director, maybe if it is a 10 million, 2 directors, so something like based on the size of the organization, based on the risk and based on the people, the board of directors might have decided the payment limit, approval limit, so accordingly that has to be done. So that is again an internal control. And when it comes to cash and bank, another important internal control that you need to remember, that is preparation of bank reconciliation statement. So preparation of bank reconciliation statement is going to be another internal control, but always remember the preparation of bank reconciliation, only preparation is not enough. So that has to be reviewed by necessary action should be taken by the next level person, maybe accountant or a finance manager. And also to prepare a bank reconciliation, there is no definite timeline. Earlier, you might have learnt in your A-level and alls, bank reconciliation must be prepared in monthly basis. But there is no such a thing. Depending on the size of the business organization or depending on the nature of the operation, sometimes the bank reconciliation will have to be prepared on a daily basis. For example, I will tell you, we'll say you are a liquor company. If you are in a liquor company, or if you are auditor of liquor company, you might have seen this one, because there are so many outlets in the country. So many outlets, they will deposit the money into your bank accounts on daily basis, daily collection. So unless you prepare a bank reconciliation on daily basis, you cannot reconcile that. We will take up example of a hospital. There are so much of deposits come into a bank account. So if you don't reconcile on a daily basis, end of the day you can't reconcile, end of the month you can't reconcile. So therefore preparation of bank reconciliation statement, it depends on the nature of the business organization and the volume of a business transaction, right. Then the next one is a property, plant and equipment. When it comes to property, plant and equipment internal control, so that you are already aware, in terms of property, plant and equipment, you need to name main internal control is, what is that? Non-current assets register or fixed assets register. Every business organization is required to maintain the fixed asset register. It is a memorandum record, it is not part of the general ledger, but it is a memorandum record at the end of the year. So end of the year the auditors comes and auditors will check, ask the FAR, give us the FAR, fixed asset register, and will cross check with the general ledger. If you want to get a full detail of a particular asset, it is not available in the general ledger, you have to go to the fixed asset register and see what are the further details in terms of that particular asset, maybe the reference number, location, code number, cost, depreciation, and from whom we purchased, when it was purchased, all the documents are available in the assets wise in the fixed asset register, right. That is again another internal control, right. And also the payroll, when it comes to payroll, you might have not experienced this. When it comes to payroll, you need to have internal controls in human resource department as well. The human resource department and the finance department should be interconnected. So these two departments should have adequate internal control in order to ensure the salary is received by the respective employees on a correct or a right time. Just imagine you are working in organization. Shall we say you are working in audit firm, your salary is, shall we say, 10,000, you are a just audit associate. So but 10,000 is like a 1 million for you. Just think about that, the end of the month you don't get that 10,000 on a day which you expected. Then what do you feel? So you feel really discouraged, the company has not paid me, why should I work? So there are a lot of negative thoughts will come, right. So in that circumstances, the salary is one of the very crucial and important aspect of the business organization. The management should design and implement a proper internal control to ensure that the correct salary amount is credited to the correct employees on the time. In order to do that, the adequate internal control must be there in terms of attendance capturing, payroll processing. There will be a separate payroll executive on the finance department. Under the finance department, there will be a separate person to deal with the human resource management. The human resource management department will give you the input. So the salary processing is normally done by the finance department, and that salary processing will be given to the bank to process on that. So there is a critical control that the financial controller should ensure. There is a critical control that the finance controller should do, that is preparation of payroll reconciliation. When the payroll is approved by the finance department, the preparation of payroll reconciliation or performing a payroll reconciliation is one of the crucial thing. What is meant by payroll reconciliation? Very simple thing, right. So what the now finance head, financial controller will not be able to check one by one. Just imagine a mass holding. There will be more than 5,000, 10,000 employees. Finance controller doesn't know who are the employees by name, how to remember, and what is the salary. They cannot do that one. In such circumstances, the payroll reconciliation is prepared. Payroll reconciliation, when you are preparing, it's a very simple thing. What you take is, you take the previous month cost of the payroll cost plus new employees cost minus resigned employees cost. It should be the current payroll cost. You take the previous month cost and you add the new employees cost and you minus the resigned employees cost and you get the current month payroll cost. So this has to be done by this is called payroll reconciliation. So this has to be done by the finance head to ensure there are no omissions or a fraud or additions in the payroll. because there is a highly possibility in the business organization when the employees are resigned, it has to be properly communicated by the human resource management to the finance department, otherwise the salary will be processed unless that particular employee records are deleted from the system or removed from the system. So there are enough examples, enough fraud that has taken place in the business organization. So I also have seen a lot of fraud activities in the business organization. So one common fraud activity that could be seen is, if the accountant wants to engage in the fraud activity or accountant wants to get out the money, so what will happen is, accountant can create an employee. There is no such employee in the business organization, but in the computer system you are creating an employee, we will say ABC, and give a bank account number. So bank account number will be in your wife bank account. If your accountant is a male, it's a wife bank account. So what will happen? Accountant is the one person who is going to check, and continuously your wife is not an employee of the business organization, but that wife will be getting the salary. So there are a lot of cases like this. So therefore, adequate internal controls in terms of the human resource management, especially the attendance capturing. Attendance capturing must be linked to the payroll processing. So adequate internal control must be placed in terms of the payroll. And the next one is the inventory. In terms of inventory, the appropriate source document should be used, maybe MRN, GRN, GDN, Transnot, PR. There are a lot of documents used by the stores, bin card. So all these document will be on a manual document or maybe a soft copy form or maybe technology based document, but those documents must be authorized by the adequate level of the people or a correct level of the people. So that is again another internal control. And also the bin card must be maintained. Those bin card must be updated. It may be on a manual or the technology base, doesn't matter, including ERP, but bin card should be used within the organization. And also you might have learned in the management accounting concepts, so maybe the stock level should be maintained, minimum stock level, buffer stock, maximum stock, reorder level. All this you have learned in your management accounting subject, but now you understand why you have learned all these things, because all these are internal controls. Minimum stock level, reorder level, economic order quantity. So all what we have learned is internal control. Why all these formulas are inbuilt in the business organization? In order to achieve 3 objectives. What is that? Number 1, enhancing the efficiency, ensuring the reliability of finance statement, and compliance with the laws and regulation. So therefore what you really need to do, so in terms of this, I just gave you a basic introduction to the internal control practical application, where what you need to do is now, so there are 6 processes: sales, purchase, cash, PP, payroll and the inventory. So all 6 processes you need to prepare a short note now. Read one time the study text and prepare a short note. Don't waste too much of time, right? But if you go through the study text of the chapter 3, sometime you may not understand what is there in the study text. What I am requesting from you, forget about the study text initially, take a paper, maybe 2-3 pages, write these processes and write internal controls that you think. In terms of the sales, what are the internal controls? In terms of the purchase, what are the internal control? In terms of the cash and bank, what are the internal controls? So you write down the points, and you go to the study text, and prepare this short note. I am going to give you the format now. In that format, if you prepare the short note, don't worry about anything. Just go and do any of the question in the ACCA, or maybe our past papers, or maybe on any other pilot paper question or a revision quick question or anything, right? Okay, so this is how you should prepare the short note. So I will write here, I think you can see. So I will write here, hope you can see. So basically, now we will take up about, I will take one example, we will say the procurement process. In terms of the procurement process, you need to prepare a short note There are 4. In that short note there should be 4 columns. There should be 4 columns. The similar short note I gave you for Code of Ethics also. I hope now you might have already done now. Right. The number 1 is the control. So you need to write the control. Then you have to do the control objective. You have to write the control objective. Right. First you have to write the control. Then you have to write the control objective. Right. Then you have to write the test of control. You know, this table itself we are going to summarize that. Then it will be easy for you. Control, control objective, test of control and the assertion. Right. So this will be easy for you. In terms of the procurement cycle, what are the control? If you write, supply must be selected properly, purchase order should be read, purchase requisition should be read, GRN should be raised, the gate pass should be raised, all these are internal control. But control objective, so you need to think why GRN is raised. You need to think why GRN is raised because of a reason. That reason is control objective. I will write one example for you. So one example control is raising approved GRNs. Right. One control is raising approved GRNs. Okay. So raising approved GRNs is at this moment is a crucial internal control that everybody knows. Why this? What is this control objective? This one, it is there in the study text, or you can think and write. But I prefer always auditing students who are thinking in a logical way, rational way, not the memorizing. So control objective is what? In order to ensure what we have accounted, because based on the GRN only general ledger will be updated as a purchase. Whether what we have accounted, whether it really represent what we received. What we have accounted as a liability, or we could write, so whether liability represent the actual goods received by us, whether the liability represents the goods received. So raising approved GRNs, control objective, whether the liability represents the good received. So don't worry about the control objective. This you will be able to identify. Control objective, don't try to memorize, try to think and write. Then the test of control, because why I am linking the test of control to here, in the previous webinar, I explained you the evaluation of internal control is done by the auditor in way of testing of control, test of control. I told you it's a very simple audit procedure in auditing test of control, because when the control is given, test of control mean what? Testing of that particular control. So in terms of here, raising approved GRNs, you need to check on that. What you need to do? You select a sample of a GRN throughout the period on a systematic sample and just check whether the appropriate or a correct GRNs have been raised and those have been approved by the particular people. 25 transaction, you select and you check. Simple. So what we are trying to say is select a sample and check whether GRNs have been raised. Check whether GRNs have been raised. You can select the sample based on the purchase ledger or a purchase day book. So you can make as a benchmark of that one and you can perform the test of control. Don't get scared for the test of control in auditing. What is test of control mean? Testing of the control given. That's all. If somebody asks, okay, bank reconciliation statement, preparation of bank reconciliation statement is a control. If somebody asks what is the test of control for that, it's very simple answer. Select 2 months of bank reconciliation and see whether the management has prepared the bank reconciliation. It's very simple. So then I have added another thing for your short note. One is control, second one is a control objective, third one is a test of control, fourth one is a assertion. Now you may be thinking, why this assertion come in here? Because assertion, we discussed the assertion at the audit evidence and audit planning, even I discussed in detail with you. So why it is coming here? I do not have time again to discuss the assertion with you, but if you can really go back to that particular webinar number 7, which I discussed, 7 if I am not mistaken, the audit evidence webinar, and also Mr. Surang will also discuss the assertion maybe on the 3rd webinar if I am not mistaken. So all those assertion, what we told about the assertion is again an auditing concept, it's a difficult auditing concept. The assertion mean always what is inside of the financial reporting, what is inside of the financial statement line item, right. On this particular, and also I told you, as far as the auditors are concerned, auditors are not looking at the transaction, auditors are not looking at the account balances. In terms of this procurement, auditors are not looking at the purchases. Auditors are looking at the something which is inside in the purchases. Auditors are looking at something which is inside of the financial statement line item, which is in this case purchases. In this particular control, what is ensuring in terms of the purchasing is, you have learned several assertions in terms of the transaction. The number one is, take 1 minute and think, what is the number one assertion for transaction? I told you, I divide account balances, transaction, divide into 2 and list down the assertion. In terms of the account balances, most important assertion that I told you is existence and valuation, main 2. Another side I told you, the transaction side, most important assertion is occurrence, ativima, right. So what I want you to do, if you really want to get this 10 marks of in your examination, maybe 10-15 marks will come sometime, depends on the paper. You need to do this short note, control, control objective, test of control and assertion for each process, right. If you can't identify the assertion which is there in the study text, if you can't identify assertion, just leave it out. But if possible, if you want to get a prize and all, you have to study in this way, and at least these three, then if you can prepare this short note, no doubt about the application of manual controls in your examination paper. And also, and after preparing this short note, don't look at the study text or anything. The short note is more than enough till your examination October. So you need to prepare the short note, write more and more questions. You yourself, you will feel so comfortable in writing the answers, right. So actually I have this short note prepared, but I don't have a way of giving this one because we can't upload to the YouTube channel. Let's see whether it can be uploaded to the LMS. So if this short note, if you can study properly, this 10 marks is nothing for you, right. We will quickly look at now this is the application of manual controls basic introduction. We will look at the pilot paper question now. Right. So I am going to discuss with you the pilot paper section 3 question number 2 part E, right. So what I kindly request you, don't watch the video continuously now. So you go back, pause the video and do this question only for 6 marks. Keep the timing 6 marks into 1.8. So that means almost you will have about 10 minutes. So take a 10 minutes time. Don't write the answer within 2 minutes. Take entire 10 minutes, write, think and write a proper answer, and after that you can watch the answer, right. So this part is a question. As part of communicating internal control deficiencies to those charged with governance, draft three significant deficiencies. So it's again the action verb is draft. You need to highlight the action verb. I have told you, I have trained you to how to write the past papers. This action verb must be highlighted, okay. And then three significant deficiencies also, yesterday I told you, or the previous webinar I told you, the deficiency is a technical verb in auditing. We don't say the weakness, we don't say the problem, we call the technical word in deficiency. So when you are writing the answers also, you need to, as far as possible in auditing subject, you need to apply the technical verbs. So deficiencies along with recommendation to overcome such deficiencies. Right. So you need to identify three deficiencies and you have to write the recommendation for 6 marks. So we'll read the question. So now I am reading the question to identify the deficiencies of internal control of this particular case study. So you are the senior in charge of the audit of Hiru Private Limited, which has been in the business over 35 years in manufacturing and sales of biscuit and chocolate. Most of the sales are made via island-wide independent distributors in accordance with the contract with such distributors. The company has its manufacturing plant in Homagama, 2 large warehouses in Kottava and Kadawatha, and its head office in Colombo. Upon manufacturing, the products are stored in one of the warehouses until they are dispatched to customers. So if you look at the first paragraph, is a basic introduction to the question, but we don't much see. It's an internal control problem. It is an overall understanding of the business organization. So therefore, first paragraph, no answers in relation to internal control. Dominic Pereira is the CEO and the chairman of the company and holds a name for setting aggressive performance targets and earning management. The audit planning for financial year ending 31st March 2020 is in progress. The company expects to expand its operation to export market by raising funds through an initial public offer, which will take place during the financial year 2021. It's again something else of the information, not the internal control related information. It is something about the overall understanding of the organization as well as some of the fraud risk factors which are relevant to other questions of the case scenario. Then the Tushar, the audit manager, has taken down the following point as minutes of the kick-off meeting. We call kick-off meeting in audit planning meeting. These are again technical wording. Kick-off meeting held with Mr. Vitarana, the engagement partner. Right. So now we'll see whether there are problem with the internal control. In this, there are 4 bullet points given. The company has reported 20% increase in revenue, which is above the industry average and the budget. According to the CEO, this increase is mainly due to the modification to the contract with distributors, which enable company to build and hold certain excess production. In my reading, there is no problem about the internal control. It is some other information, because it says above the industry average the sales has been recorded, but it is again not regarding the internal control. The second paragraph, partner recommended that fraud risk indicating revenue recognition should be considered as significant risk and require modified audit procedures to deal with such risk. He further recommended to use external confirmation procedure to obtain more reliable evidences. Again, it is something with regard to audit application, not regarding the internal control. Third bullet point, during the year of material fraud was uncovered. There is a problem, there is a material error. It involved cash receipt from customers being diverted into 2 account executives' personal accounts. In order to cover up the fraud, receipt from unrelated customers have been recorded against the earlier outstanding receivable balances. This is a very common fraud that are taken place in the business organization. We call this is in auditing teaming and lading. Right. So you are diverting the receipt into another bank account and that fulfilling the gap from the other accounts. One of them processed cash receipt and prepared the monthly bank reconciliation, whereas the other employees recorded customer receipt in sales ledger. Now, up to this point, what do you think? is there any up to this point, is there any internal control weakness? Again I will read. And also remember, in auditing paper, answer is within the question. You need to have a patient mind. අපි අර කියන්නේ ඉවසීමෙන් වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. හරි ඉවසීමෙන් කලබල වෙන්නේ නැතුව විභාගෙදි උත්තර ලියන්න ඕනේ. මොකද මේකට උත්තරේ මේ ප්‍රශ්නය ඇතුළේම තියෙනවා. During the year, a material fraud was uncovered. It involved cash receipt from customers being diverted into two account executive personal accounts. In order to cover up the fraud, receipt from unrelated customers have been recorded against the earlier outstanding receivable balances. The fraud occurred due to collusion of two account executives. Can you remember we discussed in the previous webinar the collusion? People get together. අර ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා ගේම් එකක් දෙනවා කියලා මම I told you in the previous webinar. So what happens here? There are two people got together and engage in the fraud activity. So do you see any weakness here? Do you see any deficiency in internal control in this scenario? In my reading, yes. There is a collusion. There is a collusion. That collusion had taken place because of the deficiency of the internal control, which is one of the crucial aspects of internal control. That is the rotation of the people. These two people have been, because these two people were able to engage in this fraud activity because they have been given the same responsibility continuously. Therefore, most of the organization or most of the world internal control experts, they recommend to rotate the people. You might have seen in your organization when you are working, the subject is changed. Sometimes the account executive will 1 year they will be doing the payroll, another person will be doing the, so it will be interchange. So in these circumstances, if had the organization implemented rotation of the subject or areas where the account executives are engaged, this fraud could have been discovered in advance. So therefore I can see, according to as far as my practice in knowledge is concerned, I can see there is a problem of deficiency. There is a deficiency in terms of the collusion because of the lack of rotations, lack of rotation policies of the organization. Now we identified number one. I have told you in the previous webinars, when you are writing the auditing question, what you really need, what you need to do, you need to first identify the answers in an order that is given in the question. Then after that you have to prioritize the answer in an order that you are thinking of significancy. Okay, that now we have identified one, that is lack of rotational policies. A sales executive was supposed to send out monthly statement to customers. A sales executive was supposed to send out monthly statement to customer, but this has not happened during the last year. So according to me, there is another problem here. Why? You see here, a sales executive was supposed to send out monthly statement to customers, but it has not happened. If it is supposed to be sent, account executive should have been sent. But if it is not sent, it is something wrong with the accounts executive as well as something wrong in the setup or our process. That mean we have not put a monitoring mechanism to ensure whether the customer statements have been posted for all the customers. So therefore, again there is a problem here. The progress, monitoring of the progress of the sending statement has not been in place. So that's a second internal control deficiency. Third one, bank reconciliation of two bank accounts of the company had a small unreconciled amount. Again there is a thing, bank statement issue. You see here, bank reconciliation of two bank accounts of the company had a small unreconciled amount. Further, bank reconciliation prepared have not been checked and approved by anybody. This is a very serious problem. Everywhere we can see, even at your CL1 paper or a KC4 papers in previously, this has been. Preparation of bank reconciliation itself, it is not enough. That reconciliation must be reviewed and necessary corrective action should be taken by the next level person, authorized person. If that doesn't happen, that control is not effective. So therefore, third one we can see here, the bank reconciliation has not been prepared and approved by anybody. As such, there are some unreconciled balances in the bank reconciliation statement. So the third one will be the third mistake or a third deficiency that I can see in this case study will be the preparation of bank reconciliation statement, right? Then last bullet point, partners emphasize to follow the more substantive approach in relation to revenue and receivable cycle. So in this particular case scenario, now we have identified the three critical controls. So one, this is identify, and also remember in your internal control chapter, you need to basically look at the case specific information. The case, first look at the case specific information, what is given in the case study. So out of the case study information only you need to identify the deficiency, that is your first priority. So accordingly, based on the information given in the case scenario, you have identified the three deficiencies. Now you have to think another step ahead. What is that? Once you identify the weaknesses or deficiencies given in the case scenario, take 1 or 2 minutes at the examination further and think about whether this particular company has missed any crucial deficiency, any crucial internal control which should have been implemented, but it is silent in the case study. I hope you understand what I am trying to say. Basically in your paper, you need to focus on the case specific information given in the case study and identify the deficiencies accordingly. After finishing that one, again then you think about, you know in your short note what are the critical control that need to be there in this type of case scenario, whether such any of a critical control, not all, any of the critical control has missed by the company, but not everything, only the critical control. So but in this particular case study I can see they are silent about one of the critical control in terms of the trade debtors is basically the trade debtors subledger and the general ledger should be reconciled. Trade debtors subledger and the general ledger should be reconciled at regular interval, maybe monthly or annually, maybe quarterly or biannually. It has not taken place. So that means something which is not there in the case study, but something important for me, I assume that it is not available in this particular company. So therefore identify that as a deficiency. So in my reading, in this particular case study there are 4 deficiencies. 3 are directly identifiable from the case study, 1 from your other knowledge of the application of trade debtors internal control. I have identified 4 now. Now I am not going to write the 4, the order that I identified. I am going to prioritize in order of the significance accordingly. So my first answer will be, in this particular case study, most serious concern is bank reconciliation. And number 2, I will take the point of rotation. The rotation has not been taken place. If that had happened, so this most of the fraud could have been avoided. So I will take the second point on that based on the significance. And number 3, I will take the subledger reconciliation with the general ledger. And number 4, I will take the sending out the monthly statement to the particular customers. Why I have taken that as a number 4? Because the possibility of just because of sending a confirmation, that doesn't ensure that your liability, what is accounted, is correct. So therefore I will take that as of number 4. So in my order, bank reconciliation is number 1, and rotation of the people number 2, subledger reconciliation number 3, and number 4 is the sending the statement. So the question here question here, as part of communicating internal control deficiencies to those charged with governance, draft 3 significant deficiencies. You need to tell the 3 significant deficiency always at the examination. If the examiner asks 3, always write 4, but don't write more than 4. And also when you are writing the 4, you have to write in the significant order. So you have identified the 3 significant deficiencies along with recommendation. Now recommendation, when it comes to bank reconciliation, very simple. So bank reconciliation must be reviewed and necessary action should be taken by the next level person. And if you look at the second one, the rotation of the people, so that there should be a company should have adequate policy to rotate the people on a regular interval and monitor the progress. And if you look at the reconciliation of sub-ledgers, so it has to be reconciled on the regular intervals decided by the top management. And also to send into the statement, the recommendation is the customers should be sent their statement at a regular interval, and not only just sending, the follow-up action should be taken. If there is any discrepancy communicated by them, then the corrective action should be taken to investigate how that has happened, and also it must be corrected if something wrong with us, right. So that is the practical application of internal control and the discussion of the pilot paper question part E, right. Second part of the practical application, that is application of IT control, application of IT control. This is again an important area, because in your KB4 and the KC4 paper, this has been continuously, there is a possibility in testing of CL1 as well, right. So basically you need to understand why IT control. We are going to talk about the IT control. As far as the auditors are concerned, in the business organization, there can be controls. It can be either manual controls, it can be information technology control. So for example, maybe making a payment voucher, raising a GRN, preparing a bank reconciliation, raising a good dispatch note, all this what we learnt on the previous part, all these are manual control. Maybe put a fingerprint machine, payroll reconciliation, fix asset register, what we learned previously, all are manual control which are needed for the business organization in order to achieve that 3 objective. But now the world is getting changed. Everything is getting automated with the ERP system and with the introduction of sophisticated softwares. Everything is getting changed now. In such circumstances, all these manual controls are getting automated now, and also there is a really necessary to have a IT controls. But just I will take one example. Shall we say you need some money. Shall we say your home is somewhere in Kandy, so now you need some money in Colombo. So you call, maybe you are, will assume that you are in your hometown in Kandy. So from Kandy you tell to your parents, I need money. So parents, I need the money, but I want to make some payment, or I don't have money to get my lunch, so I need my money. I need money. So what happens is, now you give a call to home, and your father comes to the Bank of CL1 of Kandy and deposit the money from the CDM machine. Within how long you can take out that money from the Kalpiti branch? Within how long? It may be 1 second or a 2 second. Once the deposit is made in Kandy, you can take out the money from Kalpiti. Just imagine the millions of transactions are happening in the business organization like this, especially the banks. So in order to ensure when your father deposit money from Kandy, it is credited to the correct bank account, and it has been transferred to the correct branch account, and it has been able to, you should be able to get out the money from the Kalpiti branch within 1 second. How many controls should be there? Just imagine of an interest calculation of a bank, thousands of transactions are taken place in a daily basis. Those transactions, millions of people are involved. millions of bank accounts are being operated in the banking system. Billions of deposits, millions of withdrawal, millions of interbank transfers, there are so many things are taken place. All need to be captured properly, and the correct interest should be calculated on a daily basis, and end of the month your interest will be credited to a particular bank account. Just imagine, when there are billions of transactions, can you control those type of things through manual process? You take a calculator and you compute one by and see whether the controls, whether the interest has been computed correctly or wrong. Can you? It's not possible at all. So therefore, most of the organization, they implement information technology control. Just imagine of an airline company. So in airline companies, so everything is technology based. All the controls are on technology. So it depends. It doesn't matter what the business. All the business organizations are adopting information technology controls as of now. So therefore, as far as the auditors are concerned, we don't mind, or it doesn't matter. It's a manual control or IT control, because we are going to achieve the same objective. As far as auditors are concerned, we don't mind. It may be IT control, it may be a manual control, same objective, but the world is moving now more towards to the IT control. So therefore, as the auditors, we can't think about the traditional control that we learned from your A-level, that we learned about 10-15 years ago. We need to change our mind as well, because end of the day, as far as the auditor is concerned, it may be the management, shareholder, auditor. What is auditor's objective? Is to come and check the finance statement and report to the shareholders. That is our objective. So in that particular objective, management is using this particular management, or particular organization is using manual control or IT control, whatever the control is being implemented by the company in order to achieve 3 objectives. What are those 3 objectives? Reliability of financial statement, efficiency of the operation, and compliance with the laws and regulation. In order to achieve these 3 objectives, controls are implemented. Those control will be manual or IT, doesn't matter. As far as the auditor is concerned, we are going to check the financial statement. When we are checking the financial statement, we need to have understanding of the internal control of the organization. We are going to test the internal control. It may be either manual or IT. So therefore, I hope you understand the basic introduction of the IT control. So without IT control now, most of the organization cannot be run. Especially the bank, you cannot do anything in the bank. Just imagine the ATM process, just imagine the international fund transfer process, just imagine the withdrawal process of a bank, just imagine a nostro account process. So there are a lot of processes which are in technology, which are inbuilt in the technological control. Without that, you cannot do anything in the business organization. So therefore, as far as the auditors are concerned, we need to have understanding about the information technology. And also, we don't want to, auditors are not required to be IT professional to understand this one. Auditors are not required to have IT expert to understand this one. As far as now, I am a practitioner. So when I am conducting audit, I don't want to have a very big understanding on IT, but I want to have the basic principles of IT and basic principle of internal control. By implementing this internal control, what is the result that you are going to achieve? Anything is like this: input, process, output. Whether it is done in technology based, whether it is done in manual, this is the thing. So auditor should be able to check the input and the output. So if you can check the input and output, so automatically your control is tested. That's how the auditors are approaching the IT control. So I hope the basic introduction that I gave you, so you will understand how important the IT controls. And the next thing, when it comes to this IT control, right, when it comes to IT control, we need to have a basic understanding that, remember, this IT control, there are 2 types of IT control. One is information technology general control, other one information technology application control. General control and application control, right. So, this is very common in your examination, general control and application control. What is really meant by general control and application control, right. I will explain you. Right, general controls and application control. To explain you the general controls and application control, don't think on a big way. Actually, try to understand this one. When I was learning this general control and application control, when I was doing the intermediate of chartered accountancy in about 12 years back, 13 years back, at that time, frankly speaking, when I was learning, I did not understand what is this general control, application control. Right, I am not going to tell you the definition of general control and application control. I am going to give you a very basic example, from that you try to identify. Okay, general control, application control, general control, application control, right. So, I will take my pawn here. So, now this is my pawn. This phone is an instrument, we will say the computer system. In this phone, okay, we will say in this phone, the phone has control. I will tell you. In this phone, it is a very basic explanation. You have a back cover in this phone, or you have a password or a passcode or fingerprint, finger mark in this phone to avoid the access of unauthorized people, or to avoid the damages when you are using the mobile phone. That is a general control. It is a general control. Password, tempered glass, this back cover, access, all these are general controls in the phone. I am telling this as an example for you to understand. Then the application control. Application will take up the WhatsApp. In the WhatsApp, you have WhatsApp is application. In order to safeguard the WhatsApp, you have put a separate password for the WhatsApp. You have put a separate password for the WhatsApp. So, WhatsApp is application. That application has been protected via a password. Then that is application control. Just to understand, I told you, general control means it is a wider range of control to safeguard the entire computer system. Application control means in order to ensure the process of a separate application, what are the controls in place, what are the controls designed and implemented by the management. That is called application control. I will take another example, that is a phone example. We will take up the bank. We will say the Bank of Ceylon, right. I will take the Bank of Ceylon, just branches, Jaffna, Anuradhapura, Kandy, we will say Matara, Colombo, Batticaloa, Trinco, right. So, Hambantota, so we will take like Mana. You see, all these branches are interconnected. All these branches are interconnected, right. All these branches are interconnected. If you look at a system, it is a banking system. In this banking system, this is called a system. It is an information technology system. So, this is connected. If you deposit money from Jaffna, you can take out from Matara. If you do a fund transfer from Matara to Trinco, it could be within 1 second it will be updated. Now, of course, so sophisticated to the mobile apps and all. So, it is all this entire branches are interconnected, we call co-banking system. And sometimes this banking system is now connected with the mobile apps. So, mobile apps also, maybe the BOC or Sampath will show something. So, those mobile apps also getting interconnected for the now banking system. So, now in this particular computer system, there can be two types of control. One is general control, other one is application control. My first thing is, you need to understand, to protect this entire computer system and also to ensure that the correct outcome is generated by the system, there should be adequate control. That control can be manual or IT. Maybe a security guard, putting a security guard to safeguard the physical cash of a bank, it's a manual control, right? But when you are making a fund transfer, if you put the correct bank account number, but if you put the wrong name, the transaction system will match whether that particular bank account number represents the correct name. Who will be the checking? Who will be doing the checking part? Whether it is done by a human, whether it is done by a bank official? No, it is done by the system itself. That is called application control. If you enter in your NIC number, you can enter maximum 10 numbers. If you enter the 11th number, system will not recognize. What is that? Whether there is somebody inside the system to check whether and tell, okay, this number is wrong. It is a control. When you go to the ATM machine, if you enter the wrong pin, what will happen? Your card will be rejected. Who is making that decision? ATM machine. On what basis? Based on the predetermined information given in the system. Again, that is application control of the business organization. So I hope you understand what I am trying to say. So in this particular banking system, there are general controls and the application control in terms of IT. So general control means, so if there are controls to safeguard this entire computer system, if there are controls to safeguard this entire computer system, that is called general controls. For example, I will tell you a few examples. We'll say the disaster recovery system, DR. If the one of the bank is, if there is a cyber attack or if there is another physical attack of a bank location, there is another backup location to run the business operation. That is a general control of the business organization. Irrespective of the application, it is applicable to safeguard the entire business network. That is called general network. So if you look at the application control, if you take it out the application of this banking system, for example, I will take the ATM process or withdrawal process, right, or nostro accounts process, or fund transfer process, or any other application, maybe deposit process, right, maybe payments gateway or any other thing. So inside there will be several applications. In those applications will have a different controls. So in order to ensure the correct outcome is processed using the correct input data in relation to the particular line item or a particular item, that is called application control, right? If it is an ATM withdrawal, if you enter the wrong PIN, your money will not be given. That is a control, application control. When you enter into the module of the withdrawal module, shall we say bank officer needs to go to the bank officer needs to enter into the withdrawal module of the banking system, it's required a password. That is application control, right? So what I am trying to say here, so inside there are several application. Interest calculation is application. If there are so much of application of the business organization, that applications, in order to safeguard those applications, there are controls inbuilt in the computer system, that is called application control. I hope you understand what I am trying to say. In your examination, you need to have common understanding of like this, as well as you need to remember examples, right? Examples, at least four you need to remember, right? I'll give two examples, right? General control, application control. You need to remember example. General control example will, right, development of computer application So that means when you are developing a computer application, that is for the entire company. When you are developing the computer application, that means developing a program, software writing. When you are writing a software for a company, so there should be a control for that. That is a general control. So development of computer application, there should be a control. Example would be segregation of duties, proper training. When you are developing application for organization, there should be adequate control. Example, segregation of duties. One person should do one part, another person should review that one, another person should do another part. There should be adequate segregation of duties, and there should be a proper training. So I am telling few example, right? And another two, avoiding 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 unauthorized changes to the program. So that means when there is a computer system, when there is a computer software, nobody should be able to change the software. Otherwise you can't run. Now for example, we will say about the food city. If somebody able to change the prices given by the head office, then something can go wrong. So therefore, avoiding unauthorized changes to the program is important. For that only, sometimes password protection are there. The server room is given a password. All cannot enter into that, only the authorized people can enter. So another one is a program logs. So that means there is a log is maintained, there is a log which is maintained in order to give a report that who have entered into the system, what are the modification made, right? So another example for general control, right? Ensuring continuity of business, disaster recovery center, DR. Example, DR. So what I gave you 3 example now, 3 example for general control. I will show you at the study text there are about 7 example, 3 example. First of all, you need to have understanding what is meant by general control. So general control mean in order to safeguard the entire computer system, the management has implemented certain control, that is called general control. One example is a development of a computer application. When you are developing a computer application, there should be adequate control like training, segregation of duties, and avoiding unauthorized changes to the program. The software should not be able to change. For that only password protection and the program logs and all that is there. And also the another example is ensuring the continuity of the business. So for example, we will take about the Pizza Hut, or we will take about the some other maybe Uber. So they need to have a continuous service. They can't say system down and all. In such circumstances, disaster recovery will be another example for general control. So all these things are to ensure the continuity of the business as a whole and safeguarding the entire computer system. But when it comes to application control, few examples for application control. So application control means it is limited to the, very limited to the 1 or 2 application. Example, we will say input control. In application, there can be input control. Example, digit verification. What is that? I told you the NIC number. So for a particular application, if your NIC number is required, so you can't enter the more than 10. Automatically system rejects. That is a digit verification. And there will be another example, existence checks. What is meant by existence checks? Existence check mean when you enter something in your system, if the system has that name, it is automatically picked by the system. If it is not there, it gives you error message, such a name is not there, right? So that is called existence check. Another one is a reasonable test. Reasonable test. When you enter, for example, when you enter revenue, right? When you enter revenue into the system, system automatically recognizes the total sales tax. It's a reasonableness testing. So automatically recognized by the system, right? So there can be further one for one checking. So that means there will be system to check the output versus input. So that those all are example for input controls. And there will be another one, process control. Process control. Example would say about screen warnings. So when you are processing that particular transaction or when they are processing in the application, there will be a warning coming in the system. What do you think? A warning nikang enawada? A warning nikang enne. So those are generated by the system through the predetermined rules. Those are information technology controls, right? Then there will be another one, batch reconciliation. So batch reconciliation. What is meant by batch reconciliation? So batch reconciliation mean, so when shall we say the 50 transaction to be entered into the particular application. So end of the day, after 50 is processed, system will check whether the actually 50, what is your input data, what is your output data, whether 50 has input as input, whether 50 has come out as output, right? So that is system will do. So what really want to do about the IT control from your end, what you really want to do, you need to have an understanding about what is general control, what is application control. That is more than enough, right? Then I want you to put a short note into 4 control. I have written here 3, general control, application control. I want to look at 4, put a short note, 1 paper, 4 control with 2 example. 4 control with 2 example for each one, okay, and put a short note. And if you can't logically remember this one, memorize this one. Normally I don't tell in auditing paper to memorize, but I know this you will not keep with your mind, it's not technological word. So memorize 4 example to write at the examination. With that you can write any question that are coming in the information technology, but always you need to have a general understanding of what is these 2. So we will discuss 2 questions and see whether you can answer for those questions, right? Okay. So if you look at the study text, and I just open the study text, if you look at the study text under the internal control chapter, this example what I told you is there in the page number 53. You see, general controls, there are a lot of examples are given here. You can go through and prepare your own short note. In application control also there are examples given. For example, you see I told you digit verification, reasonableness test, existence check, character checks, necessary, so permitted range. So there those things are there. 4 example you shall remember, right? So we will quickly look at this paper, December 2019. December 2019, question number 3. It's a KB4, December 2019, question number 3. So what you can do is you can quickly write this question before watching the video and then come and see the answer. So this question is 10 mark question required. So basically action verb, I have told you, you need to highlight the action verb. Action verb is discussed. Always discuss 3 deficiencies in IT general control that you can identify in the IT general control. You can see here general control. So the examiner is asking general control. So and also always highlight the number of marks. Right. So you see this question, discuss 3 deficiencies. You have to action verb is discuss for 6 marks. You can't just write the point, you need to elaborate the answer, because action verb is discuss. Look at the number of marks, 6 marks. So that means 1 point will be given at 2 marks. So you need to have a proper writing skill to get this 2 marks, otherwise you will get only 1 mark. Right, discuss 3 deficiencies in IT general control that you can identify in the above scenario. Part B, state 4 recommendation. Again the action verb state. When you see the state action verb, you need to understand it is, you are not supposed to elaborate, but you just give the answer. State 4 recommendation that you would make to ZPL to remedy the deficiencies in part A above, and it is 4 marks. So take a highlighter at the examination. Please highlight at the examination paper itself, then it will further highlight your mind. So this is the number of marks and this is the action verb. So discuss is the action verb. For 6 mark elaboration is required. State is the action verb. You need to quickly write the recommendation. So quickly we will read the question. Sen Private Limited operates a supermarket chain across the country. The company implemented an ERP system specially developed by an external vendor during the year. Its IT system comprises supply chain management, inventory control and point of sale system. The company has not entered into a maintenance agreement with the vendor, but its IT team can troubleshoot certain minor issues. However, the team is not capable of dealing with any major repairs. ZPL's practice is to back up the data for each calendar year on 1st January of the calendar year. The backup is kept in a drawer in the CEO's office, which is located within the company's premises. ZPL has given the facility to its senior management to log into the company's IT system with a common simplified password. So if you see, it's a very simple question. If you identify or if you understand the general control as a whole, what I told you previously, it's a very simple question. So what are the 3 deficiencies here? What I can see here, we'll read again. The company implemented an ERP system specially developed by an external vendor, specially developed one. So it is developed for us. So there should be a proper documentation and proper support from the developers. Vendor during the year, its IT system comprises supply chain management, inventory control and point of sale system. The company has not entered into an agreement. It's a problem. You see, what is the problem? This is a problem. Company has not entered into a maintenance agreement. You need to understand this is a very specifically tailor-made software for us. Specifically tailor-made software for us in such circumstances. What will happen if they don't support to us? We are finished. Unless you have an agreement, there will be a problem. So sometimes they may not support you. Because there is no agreed terms. They may not support you. And the second thing is, if they don't support, we will not be able to continue in our business, because this is a tailor-made software. So accordingly, now you can understand, the company has not entered into a maintenance agreement is a general control deficiency. Then you have to write for the 2 marks. When you are writing, you have to elaborate. So you have to, can write this as a point. The company has not entered into a maintenance agreement. So therefore, this could become a general weaknesses as to why, how it happens, because this is a tailor-made software. Accordingly, the company's continuity of the business will get effect if they say the services cannot be further provided. So that is one point. And also it says, however, the team is not capable of dealing with any major issues. Obviously, if the team is not capable of doing the major issues, definitely we need their support. For that there should be agreement. Then ZPL's practice is to back up data for each calendar year on 1st January of the next calendar year. The backup is ZPL's practice is to back up data for each calendar year on January the next calendar year. Is what a company, right? Backup is taken after 1 year. So within that year, if something happened, finished. ZPL's practice is to back up data for each calendar year on 1st January of the next calendar year. So it's a superb company. So it's again a problem. So the backup is a issue of this particular company. We'll read the next paragraph, next sentence as well. The backup is kept in a drawer of the CEO's office, which is located within the company premises. Super nice. So the backup has been taken and the backup is kept on the CEO's office. If something happened to building, finished, data also, system also finished, backup also finished. That is why most of the multinational companies, they keep the backups in a different location. Some of the banks will say, I will take one example. So any bank, they have a backup in a different location. They have the backup within the company premises. So they have a backup in another location in Colombo. They have another backup in Nuerelia. Maybe they have another backup in Singapore, out of the country. Why? If tsunami comes in Colombo, so they have a backup in Nuerelia. If landslide happened in Nuerelia, they have a backup in Colombo. If something happened to the country, there is a backup in Singapore. So backup is another important concern in terms of the general control. So therefore, the second point is there is a weak backup procedures. In that weak backup procedures, there are 2 points to be elaborated at your answer. One is there is no frequent backup taking procedure of the business organization, and second thing is there is no location. The location that they have selected to keep backup is not suitable. So these 2 points you need to elaborate to answer the second point. And the third one, ZPL has given the facility to its major, you see, ZPL has given the facility to its senior management to log into the company's IT system with the common simplified password. ZPL has given the facility to its senior management to log into the company's IT system with a common simplified password. It is happening in the most of the companies sometime. So they give a common password for the finance department to get into the emails. What will happen? You cannot identify, if you have given a common password, you cannot identify who engaged the erroneous activity. You don't have a records of, you cannot trace what happened. So therefore, this is again a general control weaknesses. The proper password policy has not been implemented within the organization. So there are 3 points here. The number one is there is no maintenance agreement, and number two is there is no proper backup procedures, and number three, you can see there is no proper password policies. So these 3 answers need to be elaborate to write. Each point has to be written with the 2 supportive point. Then only you can get the 2 mark for each point, right? And your recommendation also required. So recommendation is very simple answer. So you need to have a proper maintenance agreement signed. You need to have a proper backup procedures taken on every daily basis, and then it is kept on the offsite of the office, and the proper password policy should be implemented. You might have seen some of the companies, some of the scenarios when you enter in your password, it says it should be minimum 6 to 14 characteristic, or it should contains uppercase, lowercase, it should contain one number, it should contain something else. So those are called advanced password protection control. It will become as a part of the general control, right? So that is the answer for this particular question. So this you can get the suggested solution and see the answer as well. But always remember, you can watch the Sri Lanka suggested solution through the website, but don't try to limit to that one, because your answer must be elaborated into the level that is required for the number of marks given at the examination. So if time permits, I will just quickly take another 2 minutes or a 3-minute time. I am not taking much time because now time has gone, only 3-minute time. So there is another one good question. This is December 2016 question number 6. December 2016 question number 6. December 2016 question number 6. What I request from you, I will not have much time in discussing in detail, but I will just run through. So part A of the question, identify 2 IT general controls and 2 application controls from the above scenario. So you are supposed to identify, action verb is identify only, identify 2 IT general controls and application control. 2 IT general controls and 2 application control from the above scenario. right. So, I am not going to read the full question, so you can read the full question and do the question, but I will start from the internal control part and I will tell you what are the general controls and the application control. Through their discussion, I am going through this from this particular this place, second part of the question, right. Though through their discussion and understanding of the business, the audit engagement team identified the following controls. Now, out of this control, you are supposed to identify what are the general controls and what are the application control. There is a system integration which automatically update the inventory at the time of invoicing. It is not a control, it is a process. The ERP system is password protected and only authorized personnel have access to the particular module. Make a mukadda. Make a general control ekadda, application control ekadda. ERP system is password protected, only authorized personnel have access to their particular module. It is a general control. ERP system is a password protected, that is a general control. Then the next bullet point, there is a three-way matching in the system between the entities purchase order, invoice, shipping document, good received not. Any difference are flagged via an exception report and investigated and resolved by the accountant in a timely manner. You see here, what do you think? It is a general control or application control? It is application control. Why? It is very specific for the, with regard to the purchase three-way control. I told you the three-way control, can you remember in the, about 1 hour back I told you the three-way control. So, three-way control is the application control. Then, next one, unit price is updated automatically in the inventory module in the ERP system at the point of generating the GRN. Unit price is updated automatically in the inventory module in the ERP system at a point of generating the GRN. Unit price is updated automatically. It is not a control, it is a process. It is not a control, it is a process. The unit price field can be edited only it is authorized by the financial control and the general manager. So, unit price cannot be changed. Good example, Food City, Cargills and Keel Supers and all. So, their unit price cannot be changed. When you put the this barcode machine, quantity can be changed, but the value cannot, so the unit price cannot be changed. So, it can be changed only if it is approved by the finance controller and general manager. So, in your reading, whether this is a general control or application control, whether it is a general control or application control. In my reading, both will be correct. So, unit price editing powers will become an application control in regarding the sales system. At the similarly, this is done at the ERP model high in the computer software itself. So, therefore, it could be considered as the general control as well. So, therefore, this can be written in the both places. It could be general control, it could be application control. So, if you have written in the both places, one of the both places, your answer will be accepted by the examiner in terms of this, right. Then another 2 points are there. All manual adjustment to inventory as a result of physical inventory verifications are reviewed and approved by the finance controller through the system. All manual adjustment to inventory as a result of physical inventory verifications are reviewed and approved by the finance controller. Obviously, it is an inventory module, is an application, so it becomes application control. Then the next one, all changes are made to the ERP system are documented and tracked. So, that obviously you know that is a general control. All changes made to the ERP system are documented and tracked, that is a general control. So, what is the question? Identify 2 IT general control and 2 application control for a 6 marks. It is only identification, very simple question. So, accordingly, the first one, ERP system is password protected, it is a general control. Next one, three-way control is a application control. Editing unit price, it could be either application or general, one of the answer will be correct. And next one, all manual adjustment of inventory, that is application control. And the last one, all changes made to the ERP system will become a general control, right. So, I think now with that internal control discussion is over. Basically, we had 2 videos in the first webinar. We discussed the theoretical aspect of all the internal controls. And Second webinar, we discussed the practical application of internal control into the physical control as well as the IT control. So, if you do a proper short note for the theory and the practical application as I instructed you during the webinar, there is no doubt about the getting 10 marks which will come at your CL1 paper. But for that you need to at least to practice 20 case scenarios. So, this past paper analysis I have given in this video, you can take a screenshot, do all the past papers of KB4, do the pilot paper question and do all the revision question in relation to the internal control and if possible few ACCA question. There is no doubt this is an easy chapter, you can get the entire 10 marks at the CL1 paper in October 2020, right. Thank you.